Howdy, everyone. It's Bradley Stalder, and this is episode 6 of the Best Bell Fantasy Football Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. In episode 5, I drafted live with Billy Musio of Full Time Fantasy, where we both duked out in a Drafters Fantasy NFL Million Best Ball Championship draft. Listen to our player takes on the Best Bell Fantasy Podcast feed, wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave a 5-star rating. It really helps me out. Or if you watch the YouTube show, be sure to hit the subscribe button. It allows me to keep pumping out content like this. Today, I'll be identifying the riskiest player in each of the first 10 rounds versus ADP in full PPR leagues on today, May 13th, 2022. Player ADPs, they fluctuate throughout the offseason, but if you miss out on players early in your draft or they don't return dividends, your team is sunk. In most tournaments, you need to be one of the top 2 players in your best ball league to advance to the next round. Every edge helps, but the biggest edge is drafting the right players at the right price. The first round ADPs, they're pretty tight, but the most egregious overvalue is only by about a pick and a half. Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is being drafted at 6.6 on average, but his 1 and 3 year value ratings have him ranked at 8th. I love Jamar Chase as much as the next guy. He had the historical rookie year. I had him inside the top 12 or so of my 2021 preseason wide receiver rankings, and I was laughed out of my own podcast before then. But Jamar Chase, despite the historical rookie year, only had a 46.7% win rate. And I define a win rate as the percentile adjusted rate of scoring at least 15.5 PPR fantasy points. That 46.7 wide receiver win rate, that was wide receiver 14 last season. However, fantasy managers saw that he could achieve the highest ceilings on a high-octane Bengals offense. It's hard to pass up on talent like that. I get it. It's Jamar Chase. But based on historical value ratings, he should be drafted after Najee Harris, even in full PPR drafts. In the second round, the hype has still not cooled off enough for Javonte Williams, whose ADP right now is 17.7. During his rookie year, Williams only had a 21.4% running back win rate. Once again, the percentile adjusted rate of scoring at least 15.5 PPR fantasy points. Now, there were 32 running backs with a higher rate last season, and that included Darrell Henderson, J.D. McKissick, Myles Gaskin, Josh Jacobs, and his teammate Melvin Gordon. With Gordon re-signed, there's only hopeful projection. Like, we hope that Javonte Williams will take over and wrestle away this backfield. But that's what makes him a risky pick in the second round. Melvin Gordon's not just going to go away. Javonte Williams' 2021 value rating is negative 6.3, which is the most negative among all players in the second round. Instead of drafting him mid-second round, Williams is best valued as a late round 2 or early round 3 pick in PPR drafts. He should be taken after Leonard Fournette, after Mike Evans, and after Tyreek Hill. The riskiest player in the third round is third-year running back Cam Akers. Now, Akers admirably came back from an Achilles injury just in time to make the conclusion of the season and got serious usage in the playoffs. However, he was inefficient and quickly splitting carries in the Super Bowl upon the return from IR by Darrell Henderson. Including the playoffs, Cam Akers had a 0% win rate. Even in his career, Akers only has an 18.2 percentile adjusted rate of scoring 15.5 fantasy points. That's behind Ronald Jones, that's behind Devin Singletary, and Raheem Mostert the last 3 seasons. There's a lot of ifs surrounding Akers in the third round of fantasy drafts. Is he tied to an elite offense? Absolutely. But he's still not looking 100% coming off that Achilles injury, which it's a miracle that he's back. These Achilles injuries were at one point a career death sentence for running backs. So I think Cam Akers is a high-risk pick in the third round. He's worth an avoid at this point. I'm not sure what the right price is for Cam Akers, but the third round I think is too rich. Even before the off-field issues with Jerry Jeudy, he should not have even been considered a fourth-round pick. In 2021, Jerry Jeudy recorded a 0% wide receiver win rate, and over his career, he's only mustered a 7.5% wide receiver win rate. For context, there are 77 wide receivers being drafted in the top 238 of drafters.com who have a higher 3-year window win rate than Jerry Jeudy. And among those 238 players, no player with a 100th or later percentile adjusted rank over a 3-year period improved to top 60, much less an ADP of 46. The closest I could find was Cordero Patterson's ascension, where he was 110th percentile adjusted rank over the last 3 seasons, but last year in 2021 was able to jump up to 70th. The Russell Wilson effect may elevate Jerry Jeudy to a useful fantasy piece, but he's an opportunity suck in the 4th round. The Broncos still have other fantasy pieces: Cortland Sutton, KJ Hamler, Tim Patrick, Albert Okwuegbunam, and the aforementioned Javonte Williams. Now in the 5th round, J.K. Dobbins is the riskiest PPR draft pick. He's also coming off a season-ending injury like Cam Akers, and Dobbins only has a win rate of 11.8% over his career. Without clarity on his injury progress, or Gus Edwards for that matter, Dobbins is a shot in the dark who has only a few games of meaning in his career. He's also not a pass catcher, and he's not been used as a pass catcher, and he's on a team that's run first, whose quarterback doesn't like to dump the ball off very much to running backs. In fact, there have been studies done on how rushing quarterbacks take away from the pass catching opportunities of running backs. So Dobbins is an avoid in PPR, but if you really want, maybe he's a consideration in half PPR if you like parts of this Baltimore backfield. He just feels like it's going to be difficult for him to unlock a ceiling higher than a 5th round return rate. As for the 6th round, Allen Robinson will be the most hotly debated wide receiver this offseason. He'll be turning 29 in the 2022 offseason in a few months, but he did move to the LA Rams. His target share was an okay 19.2%. It was 41st in the NFL last season, and he had a wide receiver 43 target rate of 22.8%. He did suffer a hamstring injury in week 9, but before then, he never eclipsed 11 PPR fantasy points, despite playing 77% of snaps in 8 of those 9 games. He's being drafted, though, and like last season was a mirage or mostly didn't exist. Robinson had a 0% win rate in 2021, but a 33.3% win rate over the last 3 years. Now, 33.3%, that sounds pretty good, but it was still wide receiver 33 over those 3 years. Maybe Allen Robinson has fallen off the proverbial. Could be attributed to many things, such as like being ticked off at the Bears for franchise tagging him. It could be that Allen Robinson is just not good anymore. Maybe the change in scenery is exactly the remedy Robinson needs to once again access that elite ceiling we once saw, but he's risky in the 6th round. I would say he's a priority add only for those who want to do the Los Angeles Rams stacks in best ball. The 7th round have some of the best values, like Tom Brady, Adam Thielen, Hunter Renfrow. I would be living in the 7th round. But the least valuable pick, and I've come around, I've changed my mind, is Dallas Goddard. Earlier this offseason, I was saying Dallas Goddard is one of the best values in the draft, but now, not so much. He's only had a 14.6% tight end win rate over the last 3 years and only a 14.3% tight end win rate in 2021. His ADP should be closer to the end of the 8th round instead of the end of the 7th round. With the addition of A.J. Brown, too, whose own ADP is hovering like end of round 2, beginning of round 3, Dallas Goedert will have a greater challenge to earn targets and score touchdowns to make a strong return on investment. It's going to be difficult for Dallas Goddard to return on investment at this point in the draft. And he's also in a run-first offense. Look, Dallas Goddard was still pricey before A.J. Brown has arrived. Now he's ultra expensive in the 7th round. I'm going to have to hold off on drafting a lot of Dallas Goddard until that price goes way down. In the 8th round, Tony Pollard slots in as the least valuable player. For Pollard to return value, Ezekiel Elliott, he needs to not be on the field. He needs to not play. Pollard's 12.5% 3-year win rate and 12% 2021 win rate speaks to how durable Elliott has been in his career and the coaching staff's willingness to put Zeke on the field despite injuries and the willingness that Zeke has shown to play through these injuries. The Cowboys put their mouth where their money is. As long as Ezekiel Elliott is on the team and healthy, Pollard is going to be the most expensive handcuff in the NFL. With 43 running backs last season who had a higher win rate than Pollard, drafting him with Ezekiel Elliott also going in the 4th round, that's a minus EV selection. And while there was controversy maybe a month ago surrounding Kadarius Toney, he's still considered one of the riskiest picks at ADP. While Trey Lance, I was considering Trey Lance here in round 9, Toney's situation is clear, and it's not good. Toney should be going around pick 125 or later. Instead, he's being selected in the top 100, ahead of Chase Edmonds, ahead of Kareem Hunt, ahead of Chase Claypool. Kadarius Toney was already this low, and the Giants went ahead and selected Wan'Dale Robinson in the 2nd round of the rookie draft. And this is not a move that shows a vote of confidence for the former 1st-round rookie. Kadarius Toney already had competition for targets with Kenny Golladay and Darius Slayton, and we'll see how Sterling Shepard does recovering from his Achilles injury. But now we enter a blossoming rookie, Wan'Dale Robinson, who tore up the SEC competition at Kentucky. I would recommend passing on Kadarius Toney in this round for Marquez Valdes-Scantling or Tyler. They're more likely to make your best ball draft. Both nearly doubled Toney's win rate in 2021. So they're more likely to make your best ball lineups. Finally, in round 10, Michael Gallup is the riskiest pick here. He's coming off a torn ACL in week 17 of last year and probably won't be ready for week 1. He most likely will end up on the physically unable to perform list. Even if he is somehow miraculously ready for week 1, he would have missed all the training camp and the preseason. We've seen players take over a full year to return to 100% or 90% production from ACL injuries. And beside that, Gallup has a negative 47 value rating, meaning that instead of being drafted at like 115th overall in the middle of the 10th round, Gallup should be drafted around 162nd, like in the middle of the 14th round, based on last season's win rate data. Over the last 3 years, Gallup has shown a respectable 24% win rate, but last season he went down to 1.2%. That is a 20x decrease. In fact, Gallup's yards per reception and PPR fantasy points have decreased each of the last 2 seasons. He is a hefty avoid with all the question marks about injury and significant decrease in production over the last few years. That'll do it for today's pod. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed to the Best Bell Fantasy Podcast, make sure you do wherever you listen to your podcast. And make sure to check out the Best Bell YouTube channel, where I'll be drafting live throughout the offseason. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at FFStalder. Also, check out my little spreadsheet that I posted and pinned to my Twitter page. Check that out. It'll give a little deeper dig into some of the data that I've talked about and that I will continue to talk about this offseason. Next week, I'll identify some of the most valuable players versus ADP. In the meantime, good luck in the best ball streets.